We, of course, made national news for all the wrong reasons less than a week after Uvalde and less than 2 weeks after the shooting in Buffalo. Tulsa, Oklahoma had its own mass shooting. 4 people plus the shooter were killed at St. Francis Health System, which of course is like the largest health system in Tulsa. Yeah, really tough kind of week here with all this. I don't really know what to say except, this keeps happening and we don't seem to have any way to stop it. We get a lot of thoughts and prayers, which is gross because that does nothing to actually solve the problem. But there were some really obvious challenges with this one in the sense that the person who fired the shots bought the primary weapon 2 hours before they did this. So literally any barrier to getting a gun very likely would have yielded different results. And yet here we are, talking about yet another mass shooting.
So, as soon as I heard about this, I immediately called my best friend who works at St. Francis. Luckily, she didn't work that day, but she's always got all the information about everything that goes on in the hospital. So, I gave her a call, made sure she was good. And then yesterday, I got a text from my mother that Dr. Phillips, the surgeon that was killed, was actually my dad's orthopedic surgeon whenever he had back surgery when I was a little kid. So, yeah, and the receptionist that was killed, her kids go to the school district that my mom teaches in. So it's like, this hits so close to home. Like, we are one or two people displaced from knowing the people who are affected by this. And then you've got people like Don Spencer who are saying that, if we just made it to where you could have guns in hospitals, the doctors could have been armed and could have, stopped the guy. But it's like, why do we want to arm doctors? Why do we want to arm teachers instead of just taking the arms away?
Yeah, I pulled up Don Spencer. So, there were a variety of reactions, and I have other, the local media here did a relatively good job covering this. Obviously, it's such a small town in many ways. It's like you just explained, it's so easy to know victims, and so to get the story straight, it seemed like that happened much faster here than in an even smaller town in Uvalde. But yeah, Don Spencer, of course, Second Amendment Association. These are the guys that write the craziest laws. They helped write the Run Over Protesters law. They've written we have the only anti-red flag law in the country, which means we preemptively won't allow a red flag law, which is just, you're making laws to prevent laws that aren't even happening. It's really crazy. So, he of course has an unhinged statement about how we're gonna work to improve safety and security by giving more people guns to defend themselves. So anyway, yeah, this is kind of what we're up against. These guys are to the right of the NRA. So if that gives you any indication of where their brains are at.
I just don't get it. I don't get it. So, if you get shot up at school, right, and then you go to the hospital, you still gonna get shot up. And then there was a story out of Wisconsin yesterday that a black man who was shot and killed by police, his funeral got shot up, and 2 people got shot at his funeral. So you can't even get shot and killed and have a funeral without more people getting shot. When is enough gonna be enough? Literally, I can't even blame it on the legislators anymore, because we already know that they're not gonna act unless we truly get in their ass and make them do something about it. So at this point, I'm looking at my neighbors. I'm looking at the people. We have to do something. We have to stand up to our legislators and force them to act. And we have to vote their asses out. This doesn't make any sense. Why are we going round and round with the same people who do the same thing year after year? Replace them. I just don't. It just doesn't make sense to me that so many people have to die every single day from gun violence in this country. It literally does not make sense.
It's like we have one shooting and then it is immediately overshadowed by a shooting that happens the next day or the day after that. But it's like for the past 2 weeks, it's like every other day there's been some major headline of some shooting somewhere in the country. Chattanooga, Tennessee, two in Oklahoma, one over Memorial Day weekend, and then the one 2 days ago. And it's just like we literally do not have time to process still the Uvalde shooting and the Buffalo shooting because they've been just followed by just a train of more of them.
It's been like every single day. And what's even more disturbing to me is the fact that, yes, there are all of these mass shootings happening like every day, but the amount of notifications I get on my phone from just interpersonal shootings happening every single day, just in our city alone, just in our state alone.
Well, and even this one, I mean, this guy had a very specific grievance, to go with it. I mean, this wasn't, because like a lot of times they portray these as like, oh, it's just somebody with mental derangement or, some sort of, evil in them that makes them do this. Like this person had a grievance, and it just shows that introducing a gun to that situation made that grievance so much worse. And it's like your example, the funerals and, I mean, all these other things, it's, like, it is the guns at some point. I mean, like, humans have bad reactions to all sorts of things. The introduction of a powerful weapon designed to harm other humans makes that interaction obviously worse. And so, I mean, just this idea that, like, we need to give guns to everybody and that's going to be what makes us safer. I mean, I just can't even imagine, say somebody does walk into a doctor's office, or there was a church shooting in Iowa this morning, or a school. Is like the answers to get into a giant shootout, like as if that doesn't have any consequences. Like just we start spraying bullets at each other every time somebody.
The conversation around it is like supplying them with handguns. But if you have a man that walks in with an AR-15, a semi-automatic weapon, a handgun's not going to cut it. Like it's just going to cause more people are going to die. So throwing more guns at a gun issue doesn't mediate an issue, it just increases it tenfold.
I mean, it's just the idea alone of I'm a parent. My child is going to start public school in August, and the idea alone of these crazy ass people saying that we should just give teachers guns like is insane to me. Like, can you imagine, like, first of all, the burden that we're placing on a teacher by asking them to potentially have to shoot and kill one of their students. Yeah. But then the bigger thing that I'm worried about is the teachers who are actually fucking okay with that. Do I want you around my child? How many Sherry Conleys do we have in Oklahoma, which is the damn state representative who traumatized me as a 5th grader? How many racist people do we have that are teachers that might just wild out and shoot one of the black kids one day? Yeah. Like, oh, I was fearing for my life. The little nigga was yelling, or so, like, whatever. Like, being a kid. How many kids are actually just gonna randomly get shot by teachers? As many white people just randomly shooting people on a daily basis anyway. Like, no, that's not the answer. Yep. White people with guns are dangerous. We should not give them more guns. Like, period. This is not the answer.
Yeah. I think being American means owning a gun at this point.
I mean, that's what they want you to think.
Well, I mean, that's what the image looks like for the rest of the world. Like, people don't want to come vacation here because they feel unsafe. I mean, you talk about, like, what are actual solutions that can be done. Sure, the state has constitutional carry in place, but, I mean, when are we going to get to a point where the city and the county is going to start rejecting particular laws that don't apply to them? Like, so at that point, yeah, the municipalities end up, going into a conflict with the state government because the state government will try and sue and whatever, but why not just make it as hard as possible?
I just don't get it.
So it's just like people don't feel like people just are not safe.
But
like
the crazier thing to me is how they perpetuate this lie that you have to have guns to be safe, but it's guns that's making you unsafe.
Right.
So like what are you even perpetuating here? Like the oxymoron does not make sense.
It's an industry thing. Like it is literally just about making money for gun manufacturers.
Absolutely. The NRA is like the biggest lobbyist.
And
Like,
and the only way to, I mean, the other, I understand the argument of just like vote people out, but like voting is not enough. Like it's never been enough. And as far as I'm concerned, like our own communities have to come together to protect ourselves. It's just, fuck it. Like, and it doesn't, like, to be honest, it doesn't make me want to come outside.
right.
I don't
Right.
want to go outside. I don't want to go to a parade. I don't want to go to a festival. I can't, because there's like, literally, there is no place safe. Like, I don't want to work security anywhere because I know as a security guard, I'm probably going to get shot up. It's just there's no vested interest, and the government's not doing its job protecting us either. Because guess what? The cops don't want to die either.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the crazy part is that it took how long for the cops to go into the Uvalde building? Like, y'all, gosh.
Yeah, there's a great article. I didn't pull it up, but I'll try to find it while we talk. So I did pull up the article on screen now of the Dems, the Oklahoma Dems, which I read somewhere that they had actually had this put together before the Tulsa shooting. It was after the Uvalde one. They actually put these solutions together. So they created something called the SAVE Act, a radical departure from current Oklahoma gun laws, which isn't to say much. But the act would repeal anti-red flag laws, repeal permitless carry, repeal concealed carry in public parks and zoos, and additionally the SAVE Act would add a red flag law, a waiting period to purchase firearms, and increase the minimum age for gun purchases. Currently, an 18-year-old in Oklahoma can buy a gun without restriction. So, it just pumps the brakes a little bit on folks. And I think like something in the gun debate that just really needs to be stressed at this point is like obviously no law is going to stop 100% of gun violence, but given how out of control our gun violence is, it's like even if you reduced it by 25%, you're talking about thousands and thousands of lives saved annually.
I mean,
so like that's huge return on potential investment here.
Here's the thing, though. When we talk about gun violence in general, right? Like, we had the OKCP summit, I think last weekend or the weekend before, but it was so incredibly eye-opening to know, like, Live Free USA has this model that they've used, and other organizations have the model that they've used to actually invest in community members to stop gun violence, because the vast majority of people committing gun violence, first of all, it's a very small amount of people in your community. It could be 10, 12, 15 individuals, right, that are the ones perpetuating gun violence. And so when you invest in actual community members to, go intervene in that and invest in people who are qualified to go, do crisis management and intervention, then it decreases gun violence in cities like Oakland by almost 50%. So there really is no justification for any of the things going on when we know there are solutions out there. Slow down the access to guns and invest in violence prevention and intervention. It's literally that simple.